Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be looking at this ELO album, going to be reviewing a new world record today. So I have like changed like location for this video, just thought like I will come down here, like makes a change from like my room, so yeah, like we're downstairs today. But anyway, I'm going to be looking at this album today. It celebrates its 40th anniversary today, being released way back in 1976 on the 11th of September. So this was the band's 6th studio album, and that was a much needed British breakthrough for the band, as the last 3 albums, On the Third Day, El Dorado and Face Music, had all failed to chart in Britain when they were initially released. And they've been slowly changing out their sound from album to album, with like On the Third Day being more like progressive rock, to like more sort of like symphonic classical influence on like El Dorado, to like a sort of like a combination of the two, like on Face of Music. However, the band really weren't getting anywhere with this, and they probably like out of desperation to get a hit and like also start making some money here, because after all they still had to make a living. Jeff Lynne took them in like a more sort of poppy / commercial direction, and like that definitely paid off. Although they still did like on this album, they like retained like their progressive rock roots and like the string section as well, while like making that the tunes a bit more melodic and like a little bit more accessible than like their previous stuff. The title of the album, A New World Record, came from like during the recording sessions when like the 1976 Munich Olympics were on, and like of course like when it's like the Olympics we always say, and that's a new world record, and that like there was always like these big announcements of that, so they thought, hey, that's a pretty good title for an album, so that's why like it is called that. And like I think it is a fantastic album, especially considering the massive hit what it was. It sold 5 million copies worldwide in its first year of release, and was certified platinum in both the UK and the US. However, chart-wise, in terms of like actual positions, like it didn't do as well as like I would expect, reaching only number 6 in the UK and number 5 in the US charts. So yeah, I'm just going to show the vinyl, but first I have got this CD here from the CD box set. Now with this we do get a couple of bonus tracks. Most of them are just like instrumental backing tracks off like a couple of the songs. I think you get Tightrope, Telephone Line, maybe Above the Clouds, and I think So Bad as well. They're quite interesting to listen to, really. Like you can listen to like the arrangements like themselves, like with like these songs, because they are so like amazing, like the arrangements. So yeah, like the bonus tracks aren't half bad. But there is like another bonus track on here called Surrender, which I'm not going to include with like the album review, but I think it is a decent song. Really, like it doesn't sound too much like an ELO number, sounds more like a Jeff Lynne solo recording, but it is still a fun little song. So yeah, the CD is worth getting for the bonus tracks. But anyway, to the vinyl now. This is, I believe, a original UK copy. I know they've recently reissued this on clear vinyl, but like I don't think that I'll bother getting that. This one is perfectly fine. Nice sort of laminated cover, embossed logo there as well, which is really nice. In here comes with a lyric insert here, which is actually like the inner sleeve, but that one has this massive tear down like the bottom of it there. Impossible to keep the records in that, so the seller actually sold it in like this plain sleeve here, which I think was probably wise of them. So yeah, we've got the ELO logo on one side and the usual Jet Records label on the other. So yes, I'm now just going to go over all of the album songs. I will score each song out of 10, and then those scores I will use to give us a percentage mark for the album. So we open up with the song Tightrope, which I am giving a full 10 out of 10 to. I absolutely love this song. It is the perfect opener for an album for me. I love the way it starts, very tense build up, like we don't just go straight into like a song, like it starts off quite quiet, quite mysterious, lots of like these like strings, like sort of backing vocals, quite mysterious start. But then after about like a minute of that, it then goes straight into the track, and like it's just such a fantastic song, a lot of great hooks in it, great lyrics as well, like I find to this one here, and like a really like rocking, uplifting song. And then like the introduction, like it comes back in back in like during like the middle part of the track. It really works well, and like was definitely like a great choice. But like for Jeff Lynne to open like his like recent tour with, like when I saw him live, this was the first song. It was like the perfect song to start off his set list. So yeah, I absolutely love Tightrope. Second track in is the classic Telephone Line, which, surprise I'm giving a 10 out of 10 to as well. A classic ballad, classic ELO song, this really fantastic. I love Jeff's vocals on this, like especially sung with such like heartfelt emotion, and like the harmony vocals as well provided by Kelly Brocup sound amazing on this one. But then equally with like the backing track, like what you get like on like the CD like as a bonus track, that sounds great as well. So like, you can really like appreciate like the like arrangement of this song, like as well as like the lyrics and like the killer melody. This one was one of the album's singles. I believe it was the last single released like sometime in like 1977, and despite it being such like a popular, well-known song now, like it only managed to reach 7 in the US and 8 in the UK, which I suppose like isn't that bad. I mean, it's still a top 10 hit, but this song should have been like a number 1, and like I think it is like also fascinating that ELO did not get a single number 1 like by themselves. Like their only one was Xanadu, which was probably held to the top by like Olivia Newton-John being on it. So yeah, unfortunate that, but they certainly deserved much more success like than they actually had. Third track in is called Rockaria or Rockaria. There's various people like pronounce this one differently. I think it is Rockaria. It's like a weird title, but anyway, it is a great song though. A more sort of basic rock and roll number, you could like look at it, but then like I love like ELO's twist what they put on it, starting with like the opera singing, and then like the whole sort of like theme like off like the song, like it's sort of like the chorus is like she's sweet on Wagner, I think she'd die for Beethoven, and like that wee bit like it is like the version of like Roll Over Beethoven, because they're like ELO. It's sort of like it is like almost like a parody, shall I say, but not really though, because it is still a great song though. And like the lyrics to this one sort of about like an opera singer who's like wanting to learn like rock and roll songs. A UK single list as well actually reached the top 10. So yeah, like a great song really. Although not quite as good as like the first 2 tracks personally. Now closing side 1 we have Mission, a world record, which I'm giving an 8 out of 10 to. Sort of much slower, more sort of atmospheric ballad, although it does develop, goes through a lot of sections, a lot of change throughout the song, which I think really helps it along. Yeah, like the lyrics of this one seem to be kind of similar to like Alone in the Universe, from like his like most recent album, sort of like being like alone, sort of travelling through space and that. I think like the main sort of verse is like, for many days we travelled to reach a distant place in time, to the place called the planet Earth or something like that. It goes like along like those sort of lines. So yeah, like it is a great song. Again, lots of different sections. Very sort of this is probably like one of like the most like progressive rock songs like on like the album, like in terms of like the way the song builds and that. But for me personally, it isn't one of like my go-to tracks from the album, but there is very little wrong with this song. So yeah, an 8 out of 10 for me. And then side 2 opens up with the song So Fine, which I am giving a full 10 out of 10 to. I love this song, a very fun, little breezy song, shall I say, but it is a very lost sounding song, very sophisticated production on this song, and like also throughout the album as well. Very nice change in like the middle, goes in like the slightly different direction. Like there's a bit of like percussion, I think though it's played on like a Moog synthesizer though. But yeah, really interesting track, and like a little bit reminiscent of like Jungle, and that middle bit, Jungle from like the follow-up album Out of the Blue. So yeah, great song. Surprised this wasn't a single, because I think that this would have been like a real like big hit for ELO. Higher and higher, baby. And then the next up is Livin Thing, which again, no surprise, is a 10 out of 10. Love the way this flows in like from like the last one. We get like the end of So Fine, then like this note goes whoop, and then we go into Livin Thing or something like that. That was a pretty bad like impression of like the transition, but you get what I mean. Like it's sort of like it flows in really well to like the quiet like violin like introduction to this one. Yeah, like a great song, classic track, an international hit single reaching number 4 in the UK, very much like a much needed breakthrough. Well, again, like saying that though, they did have Evil Woman, which was a sort of a hit for them in like 75, but like the last one before that was Showdown. So yeah, like there's like this big gap where like ELO really weren't like doing much like in the British charts. But yeah, this one was a proper good like comeback single for them. The thing I would say about this one though is like I have maybe slightly overheard it, but I wouldn't let that like influence like my score like on the album, because it probably is my fault like it being on like the greatest hits album and like being like one of like those go-to ELO songs, like you really can't like avoid from them. Also shockingly as well, this was actually voted number 1 back in 2006 so on like a like top like guilty pleasures songs, which is absolute rubbish. I mean, that's certainly well, I say that, but maybe back in that 2006 ELO, they certainly weren't like the most fashionable band. But now I'd say this song, or like any ELO track for that matter, wouldn't make that list, because they are very they are getting like a lot more like respect now, and like that is definitely like a good thing like in my eyes. Next one is called Above the Clouds, which I'm giving a 7 out of 10 to. A shorter piece on the album. I believe this this one is like only about like 2 minutes. It's very much more like a transitional piece on the album. Not really a song that I would play like in like isolation of the album. Most of the vocals on this one are done by Kelly Growcup, and like I think he's okay at lead vocals, certainly not as good as Jeff Lynne. Like he did sing quite a bit off like the lead vocals on Face of Music, which is probably one of the reasons why like I find that album is like inferior to this one. But after this, I think he would like rarely be used for like lead vocal duties. It is a slightly slower track, but I do quite like the verse, quite like the lyrics as well are like nice on this one. Although I do feel with like a little bit more work put into this song, it could be made into like a really good song, and like kind of like prevent this song being what like many people would call filler like on this album. And like I suppose that is sort of like what it is like on here, like compared to like giant songs like Livin Thing and like Telephone Line, and like the next one of course as well, Do Ya? Yeah, Do Ya. Now I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. Now this is a remake of like a song what like Jeff done previously with The Move. So like he like wrote this one and like everything, like it's not a cover song. Like certainly like I'd say most people know this by like the ELO version rather than like the original version by The Move. This one was actually put on the album because they were doing this song live, and like it was getting such like a great reception that like they thought, well, like, they might as well like record it and get the song out like as a single or some video, because it is a really good song. And reason why for me though it isn't personally a 10 is I find that the lyrics a little bit weak, a little bit, well, not so much forced, but not really much thought has like gone into them, which is like, yeah, like the only thing what like I would say. But it does have like a killer riff, and like it is like a great song. A single released in the US, hit number 16 there. So yeah, not terrific, but still a top 20 single for them. And then we close with the track Shangri-La, which I'm giving a full 10 out of 10 to. I actually think this is a really underrated ELO song. Certainly one what I am like definitely guilty of like overlooking. It was only really when like I played this album again for like this research for this video that I really like grew to like appreciate this song. I love the way it ends the album. Like it is a nice slower way to end the album. Lyrics could be about at the end like of like a relationship. Like I think like I think like the following year Jeff would actually like divorce like from like his first wife, so that could be what like the lyrics like allude to like in the song. But like I do like really love like the chorus line, she faded like the Beatles on Hey Jude. Love that we've referenced there, like always has, like made me smile, that lyric. And like yeah, like it is a great song. Love the way it sort of fades out and comes back in for like a grand close to the album. So yeah, this one really works like for me. Overall, this album would score 92%, which is a really terrific score. Like anything over 90% is like a almost flawless album. I mean, there are no bad songs in it, just a couple which like maybe don't like stand out as like much as some of like the others, but you get that with like nearly all albums were on like greatest hits like compilations. This is ELO's best album, although like for a time like it wasn't like a personal favourite. Like I used to go to Time, which like I believe like when I reviewed that fairly recently back in July, I think it was, I gave that something like 87%. So this one beats Time, as well as Out of the Blue, which I think I gave like 90% to, or like 91. Like it's very close between like these two albums. But anyway, this one, there's not a weak song in it. Yes, it is quite poppy, quite catchy songs, but it is very sophisticated as well. And Jeff's production really enhances like the whole experience like of the album. Yeah, so overall this is a true classic album of the 70s for me, and like I hope that like with like the recent like resurgence in like Jeff Lynne and like all things ELO, that this actually does get recognised as being one of the all-time greats from the 70s. Because one thing like I have found with like the recent like resurgence in like Jeff Lynne is like it seems to be focused more on like the hit singles and like the greatest hits, whereas like the albums do like still seem to be like underrated in like the great scheme of things. So yeah, like one day like I hope I hope that like this will get like more like recognition like that it does, although it is already considered like a really great album though. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I would, as always, like to know what you think of this album down below in the comments, and I will see you all next time for the next review. Goodbye.